Hey guys, Timothy Roberts here. In this video I'm going to talk briefly about this cymbal that I just finished making for a customer. It is a 22-inch from my Tributary series, and it was modeled after a very particular ride cymbal sound that the customer referenced when they commissioned this cymbal from me. So let's take a listen to how this thing sounds and we'll talk about it. All right, so the ride in question is a ride that the great jazz drummer Gary Novak played on a Bob Berg record, and the track that was sent to me as the best example they felt throughout the whole album was the track No Trouble. And on that track, he goes to the ride cymbal in question during the piano solo, so near the end of the track. And the cymbals he's playing up until he goes to this cymbal are very beefy sounds. They're like definitely heavy cymbals. They're dry, they're articulate, they've got a good amount of ping to them. But when he goes to this cymbal during the piano solo, it's a much airier sound. It's a much more dancey cymbal. It has a really beautiful breathiness to it. And that was a thing that, you know, Gary went to that cymbal because he felt like it supported the piano solo best of all the cymbals that he had on that session. So that was what I was going for. So I'm starting out knowing that, okay, I'm making a more airy cymbal. This is going to be a cymbal that's, you know, a little bit more light and will work really well to back a piano or, you know, in an acoustic environment during softer solos possibly. And so from there, I started diving into this track, diving into Gary Novak's playing. I've studied Gary, obviously, because he's one of the greats, but I was refamiliarizing myself with his wonderful playing, kind of seeing how he strikes the cymbal, what kind of sticks he uses, all that kind of stuff. And I was able to determine, or at least guess, that the cymbal he was using might have been an old K. It sounded like it had a really funky thing going on. It had like this really breathy, dragon's breath kind of thing that was sitting underneath this really clear stick definition. And it had a nice ka kind of sound, which usually comes from taller shaped cymbals. And so that in and of itself presents a challenge with when you're trying to recreate that sound, because cymbals that are umbrella shaped, like this one is, see if it will focus there. They are rather curved, kind of umbrella shaped, and the more umbrella shaped a cymbal is, the higher the pitch is going to go, and the more you're going to start bringing in that kind of ka, dragon's breathy thing, all that stuff that we like to try to figure out how to describe, like I am right now. And it has a very particular tone. As the profile gets taller, the crash gets a little bit more choked because, you know, it's not as easy for the cymbal to kind of vibrate and throw off sound. And so the more umbrella, the more kind of tight things get, the higher pitch the stick definition gets, and you're kind of bringing up the fundamental tone as well. And if you're not careful with these kinds of umbrella cymbals, you can have a cymbal that has a really choked or squished sonic frequency. And those cymbals tend to be a little bit muddy. They can sound kind of muddy to where you're hitting it, and the lows, mids, and highs are kind of all living in a close proximity with each other. And so it doesn't really allow for the clarity that you might want in the gig. And the thing about this cymbal in particular was it has a lot of clarity on the stick, and it has this bed of sound that sits way below the stick definition. So that was the major challenge. And so I made the cymbal, and I got it to basically the final place, got the profile kind of dialed in where I thought it would be, and thought it needed to be. And it was giving me kind of the breathiness and the ka, dragon's breath, all of that I liked. But it was sort of, the frequencies were sort of squished, and it was kind of, it felt like too much in too small of a space. Like I really wanted to stretch the frequencies apart. And so I went in, and you'll be able to see in the light there, you can kind of see the really heavy points of hammering from the underside. You can even see it from the top, where these big hammer strikes that are spaced a little ways apart. These are really heavy strikes with a Turkish hammer, and that's done from the underside. And what that does is it kind of loosens off the cymbal, it drops the fundamental pitch way low, and then I'm able to go in and do a process called burnishing on top, which tightens that thing back up. So now, instead of this cymbal that is that's got the frequencies living close together, that hammering has just taken the fundamental pitch and just dropped it down into the basement, and that has the effect of clearing the way for the stick definition to really sit on top and be very, very forward in the mix of the cymbal. And that was the final process to get this thing dialed in to how I felt like it needed to be to capture this general vibe. So the weight on this cymbal is 2,325 grams. So we are dealing with a thin cymbal. We're not quite at paper thin, but we're like heading in the direction of paper thin. 2,350 grams is kind of my go-to, like this is the best, relatively, it's in general the best weight for a jazz ride cymbal that's going to be used in acoustic environments, not too many electric instruments. 2,350 grams is wonderful. Once you get into the 2,200 gram range, 2,100 gram range for a 22, they get very, very airy, and we're starting to get into a zone where to have enough stick definition for you to be able to dig in and the cymbal to go with you is just not going to be possible with a cymbal that's 2,000 grams, 2,100 grams. But those cymbals can be great and fine, and you can tape them up and get stick definition, kind of dry up the spread, but they're going to work better in lower volume music, and they're going to work better in places where there's a lot of reflective surfaces maybe, and you're going to be playing at a very quiet volume, and you want a warm, nice sounding cymbal that's at a very low volume. But that's even not a hard and fast rule, because you can just use your technique and you can play quietly on a heavy cymbal. So a lot of it, I feel like, comes down to being able to activate the cymbal easily. So activating at low volumes requires a thinner weight, and that's probably what a lot of people want and feel like they need when they're looking to get a really thin cymbal. It's like we want to be able to just barely glance this thing and have the sustain and the crash kind of open up. So all that to say, this cymbal, given that it has like a tall profile shape and it's got the heavy hammering to drop the pitch, the tall profile shape can actually it can afford me the ability to go thinner with the cymbal and not lose so much stick definition. If I have a really flat cymbal that doesn't have a lot of curvature to it, and it's thin, it's basically a crash gong thing with no stick definition. We all know cymbals that are like that. They can be cool as like particular sounds, kind of effects cymbals, but when we're talking about a cymbal that's going to be functional on the gig, they don't really maintain functionality at a great level. So, if you're going to have a really low shape on your cymbal, you want it to have higher weight, and so conversely, if you want a high profile cymbal, you actually can go thinner on the weight so that you have the level of activation and stick definition that you want. So that might be a little bit confusing. I talk about this in a lot of videos, so hopefully the repetitive nature of me sharing this stuff slowly seeps into your consciousness and you start understanding this incredibly complex instrument that we know and love. So please drop a comment below and let me know what you think of this cymbal sound. you can find, anywhere you listen to music, you can look up Bob Berg and look up the track No Trouble, and you can see, or hear rather, this cymbal. And just scroll, pan over to the end of the track, and you can hear when he goes to the piano solo, the cymbal that I was modeling this one after. And just keep in mind, I've talked about this in other videos, but there's microphones, there's processing, there's taking things through preamps and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. There's how you listen to the thing. So there's so many elements in the recording of a cymbal that color the way that cymbal actually sounds. So as a cymbalsmith, my main job is try to cut through all the noise and really get down to the heart of what was this cymbal in the room when Gary was sitting behind it playing it. That's my main job as a cymbalsmith. And my last little note on this is that if you are looking to buy a cymbal, beware of how the cymbal is recorded. Okay, if it sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. And you can know this by just listening with headphones. You can know this by understanding cymbal specs a little bit more. Like if you see a cymbal and it's at a really thin weight, but it has a ton of stick definition, you can look at a couple factors. Okay, how is the drummer playing that cymbal? What stick tip are they using? And then you can, beyond that, you can ask, well, how hard are they hitting? Are they digging in, or are they just tapping the cymbal ever so slightly? All of these things really matter when it comes down to choosing a cymbal that's going to function for you as the musician, as the person that's going to have the cymbal, that's going to play it at their gigs. These are wildly important things for us to take into account when we're looking to purchase a cymbal. And so my goal on this channel is to educate people about the process of making cymbals and cymbal sounds, and hopefully just give you some tools so that you're able to be a little bit more discerning when you're making a decision as to how do I want to find my sound. So that's my last little spiel on that whole topic. There's going to be a lot more where that came from, because I've got a huge list of videos I'm prepping to make. And I really want to, like I said, help you guys find your sound. So drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about this cymbal and about the reference if you check it out. And keep an eye out for the next video. Obviously, hit the subscribe and the bell if you like this content and you want to see more. But until next time, I'm Timothy Roberts. Thanks for watching.